All right. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, John Rand, and my guest today on the Always Direct podcast is David Yep. David is the Vice President and Chief Revenue Officer at Triune Health Group. Triune Health Group is very well known in the industry for their results-oriented medical case management, vocational rehabilitation, life care planning, and utilization review in workers' compensation arena. And I'm very excited to hear his story and pick his brain. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. So let's just start off by talking about what you guys do at Triune and how it all started.
I feel like the first thing I need to do is kind of translate that whole blurb, like bring it down to English.
I already simplified it. That was broken down a little bit, I thought, because it was a lot. You guys do a lot of like hardcore stuff over there. I mean, it's like complicated work, I think.
We just like to sound intelligent. That's it.
Well, it's working.
I remember when I did my MBA, John, we used to make fun of ourselves and all the typical MBAs who come out speaking like big corporate like languages. You know, they throw out these words like, ROI and like, efficiency, like all the stuff that they just MBAs throw out. And so we used to have a rule that whenever someone started using jargon, we'd cut them off and say, explain it to me like I'm a golden retriever. So we'll try to explain workers' comp as if we're golden retrievers. Basically, what we do is help people get back to work when they get injured on the job. So you're working for a construction company, piece of cement falls off, shatters your leg, that becomes a workers' comp claim. They come to Triune to employ our nurses that'll help you get back to work faster. That's essentially it. If you're a football guy, the nurse case manager, as they're called, she's kind of like the quarterback. Like she's coordinating between the doctors, between the insurance guys, between your HR people, and everything is geared towards how do I help John get back to work faster? So it took me about 32 years to understand what my dad did for a living, just FYI. So it's, if you don't get it at the first go, it's all right. No.
That's a good analogy. So let's walk through that, because I don't understand why people would need that. Why can't they just go straight to the insurance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So imagine you're that guy that got hurt. You go to the doctor. First of all, like most of us, we're not medical people. Like when I sit with a doctor and he talks to me, my eyes kind of just glaze over. You get the deer in the headlights. I don't understand what he's talking about. And so we're listening to a doc tell you about your leg that just got shattered and you have no clue. So what the nurse does is she breaks a lot of that down, and it's like she'll make it explainable to you and say, hey, this is what he's actually saying. Like, let's speak in words that we actually understand. The other piece of that is like you're coordinating between 5 or 6 different providers. Like you may go to the orthopedic doctor, you may have to go to the pain doctor, you may go to the physical therapist. And so stuff can get lost in translation. And so that's why I use the example of the quarterback. The nurse is the one that she has her hands from a medical standpoint on everybody that's helping you. And even your insurance adjuster, they're not medical people. Like they've got experience because they've been doing this, but they don't know the ins and outs of medicine. Our nurses, they'll literally save people's lives because they'll be in an appointment. You went because that leg got crushed. The nurse notices something else that you didn't think was a big deal. She points it out, and all of a sudden doc's like, oh, jeepers, we got a bigger deal here. So that nurse having kind of that hands-on experience and being there just makes the process a lot faster and a lot easier, frankly.
Okay, so let's just say, God forbid, somebody I know got hurt and needed you don't deal with a cut to the finger. You probably deal with more bigger problems, bigger stuff. So they're not going to go if they go to the doctor, they go to the emergency room, they get stitched up, they get fixed up. Right then and there, at this point, somebody from the family is calling the insurance to kind of help figure out how to pay the bills. At that point, is there a point where you guys, did the insurance go to you and say, hey, could you help facilitate all this? Or do they have to go through you?
Thanks for clarifying that. So we work for the insurance company so we work for the insurance company. They contract with us on an hourly basis and they say, hey, so let's talk reality, right? The insurance people, every day that you're out of work, insurance is paying dollars. They're paying John. And they don't like that. Exactly. No bueno. We got to kill that. So let's get the Triune people, because anything they can do to help you get back to work faster is less dinero for them out the window. And so they want, that's what they want. So we work for the insurance company. We'll also work for this is industry jargon, but what are called self-insured employers. So your large employers like a Hobby Lobby, a Home Depot, United Airlines, like these guys, they don't actually pay an insurance company. They keep that money in-house. And so they'll contract directly with us, but that's getting a little bit into the weeds.
No,
we're kind of
that makes sense. Yeah, no, you know why? Because I was thinking about when I was just, doing a little research on your company and you, I thought, before you just clarify that perhaps you guys had a similar business model as like an insurance claim adjuster, like a insurance adjuster. What do you call that? The guy who comes and represents you in an insurance adjustment. I forget the name of it. Where so like if you had a fire, you call the insurance
adjuster.
They want to give you 50 grand, 100 grand.
Yep.
This guy comes and whoa, take it easy. Wait a minute, let's figure this out. You need more than 50 grand because this right here is 27. This is, and look at the smoke. Now you have to stay in a hotel. Suddenly it goes from 750 to 100, goes to 200, $300,000, and he just like doubled what you were gonna get, and you would have not realized it. So I thought that's what you did.
No, so that's a piece of, that's involved in the whole workers' comp market, because a lot of people, and this is kind of, you start to get into what things I'm actually passionate about. Workers' comp, I can't say that it woke me up every morning and I was excited to jump out of bed to do workers' comp. It's more our ability to touch people's lives. And healthcare is a weird place where, humanity really intersects. Body, mind, and soul kind of all come together. And you see it super clearly in these injuries. I mean, let's be honest, like you get injured at work. You're provided for your family like I am. I get injured at work and like all of a sudden all these questions start racing through my mind. Like, who's going to take care of my kids? Like, is this company going to fire me? How am I going to get better? Who's going to pay? What's going to happen? Will I ever be able to work again? Like, it's a very fearful time. And so the ability for us to come in, and yes, we're helping on the medical side, but we're also helping on that soul and that heart side. That's what we're really passionate about, because now you come in and you can give comfort and consolation and confidence to someone who's going through this whole process. So go back to what you said, like attorneys are a big part of what happens in our industry. I'm working for that company and smashes my leg. Well, the first thing I do is go get an attorney because I don't want to get screwed over by my employer. Like, do I really believe that they have my best interest in mind? And that's where you kind of see this really cool, like crossroads or intersections of company culture. So if you have a company that truly cares about your employees and your employees know that they care about you, well, you're not running to an attorney to say, hey, like, let's get my settlement. Like I need every dollar I can out of these guys. If your company actually cares about you, then you're going to trust that you're going to be taken care of. But what Triune does, and because of our approach, which is very people-centric and very kind of understanding that man is body, mind, and spirit, we're ministering not just to the body, but also to the spirit. And we're saying, hey, relax. We're here for you. We're going to help you out. Your employer is not out to screw you. And that's that's what excites us. It's sort of that combination.
Yeah, David. I mean, that's you almost in your business, because insurance can be kind of dry.
Oh yeah.
Let's be honest, it can be very
really dry,
really boring sometimes. I think it's a big business, right? It's a gigantic business. It's a great business financially. It's like a profitable business. I mean, I don't know your profits, but I'm just saying in general. But so it's not exactly the funnest business. However, but the way you spin that in your mind, to not spin that in a negative way, but spin that like to really know what you're really not doing the paperwork part. What you're really doing is you're helping people, and you say it all over your website. You say it on your videos. I read your about page, and I watched the YouTube video that you and your brother created. It's about people helping people, and you live by that, and it shows. Honestly, it does show in everything you've done, so that I can see. And so that's what gets you up in the morning, not the paperwork and the health. Right?
Yeah, man. I like to joke. We're kind of the ugly redheaded stepchild of healthcare. Like we're comp. Like who even knows and who wants? And even in comp, we joke about ourselves because it's like comp is kind of like the industry that you go to die in. Like it's just it's not sexy. It's not a lot of the people that are in comp. Like the most common question when you meet someone in comp from another company is like, so how the hell did you end up in here? Like, you just kind of get led there. And then a lot of people, and so that creates, to your point, this whole like drab kind of, boring, not really attractive insurance, blah, blah, blah. And it's, I think it's refocusing, like you said, and shifting the perspective. And when you realize that you're dealing with people's lives and you can really make a difference, I mean, that's exciting, and that's something to get passionate about.
Exactly. David, correct me if I'm wrong. Insurance companies, hospitals, all the medical fields, it's just chaos. If I the back of the back office stuff is just chaos, because you have to have a special degree to put in the right codes to get the insurance to pay for it. If you mix it up, you recategorize it incorrectly. Suddenly, now it takes 4 phone calls to fix that. Is that always been that way? Am I wrong, or is it not as chaotic as I think it is in the background?
No, I think it's chaotic. I mean, I could talk to you the whole podcast about my feelings.
I want to hear what your experience is a little bit. I mean, break it down for me. What do you see?
So, John, my background is business, right? I'm not an industry guy. I'm not a healthcare guy. I went to, my first experience in business was I was living overseas, had the chance to
Where?
I lived in Germany, Spain, Italy, and Austria, 11 years.
Holy crap.
It was quite, yeah.
Wait. Why'd you come back? Did you take more to family business? Seriously?
No. It's also the $1 million question. Why did I come back?
Sometimes you want to kick yourself. No, but why did you come back?
It was just time. I felt at the time that it was time to come back. I left home when I was 13, went to boarding school on the East Coast. It was an all boys school. And, I was a little bit into ministry. That kind of took me overseas in the first place. And then, one thing led to the next, this incredible experience, seeing these cultures, living in these places, learning the languages. And, at some point at that time, I really felt strongly, my strong American roots. I'm like, yeah, it's time to come back. Everything happens for a reason. So came back here, met my wife, which is funny. She's actually Eastern European. Everybody always asks, did you guys meet over there? I'm like, no, we met, at a Starbucks in Orland Park. It's funny how that works. But, so my first experience in the business was actually running a non-for-profit in Austria. I was the national director. It was a non-for-profit working in youth development, kind of like I think like Boy Scouts of America, more or less, just teaching kids values. And I loved the intersection of operations and marketing and sales and finance and like how it all comes together to create a thriving organization. So came back to the States, went to grad school as an MBA in entrepreneurship, which is also a fascinating topic. But where I was going with that is when I look at healthcare, like one of the fundamental things that was drilled into us in business school is it's all about the customer. Like the customer is at the center. And the moment you as a business start to veer away from that and forget who is your customer, and, being all about the customer means you actually understand what does my customer need? How do they feel like, and who is my customer? Who am I trying to serve? Healthcare has forgotten who the customer is. It's not about the patient anymore. It's about the bureaucracy and the red tape. It's about the FDA approving X, Y, and Z. It's about, the systems that are within hospitals. It's half the time it's about like trying to make ends meet. It's about pharmaceuticals. It's like all of this stuff. And the one who gets left out is that patient. They're kind of sitting there like, you don't know how much an operation costs. You go to a doctor visit, you have no idea what you're going to be charged. You're just kind of waiting to get that bill at the end and like, fingers crossed, hopefully my insurance is going to cover, like, how is this all going to work? And so that lack of transparency. And so to answer your question, in my opinion, yeah, it is as dirty behind the scenes. There's a lot of amazing people in healthcare and a lot of people who enter it for the right reason. But as an industry, in my opinion, yeah, it's forgotten in a lot of ways what it's supposed to do. And again, I can talk for hours on this. I don't want to use up the whole podcast, but to answer your question, I do think that it is as.
No, David, don't even think that way. This is why we're here, my friend. It's such a nasty business. I know it's a nasty business. I wanted to hear. When I say nasty, like, it's everybody's looking for themselves. So when I was reading what you guys do, it's like a breath of fresh air, whatever, you know what I mean? Fresh breath of air.
Fresh air.
Yeah. So my point is because I had a small surgery not too long ago, maybe a couple years ago, and I just went. What you just said was spot on. I had no idea what I was going to end up paying for because I am a self-employed insurance. Okay. So I have a company pays for my family insurance, my brother's family insurance, and it's not the best. High deductibles, whatever. I mean, it's good. It's good for emergencies, but like my deductible is like $5,000. So I had nobody can give me a straight answer. on what it was going to cost me, what was my responsibility, and then I got the bill and it was like sticker shock. I was like, what the hell? What do I pay all this for? I could have just paid cash for this thing at this point. But not only that, but do you think that they created such a complicated situation so that other people won't get into it, so they can create barriers of entry?
Yeah, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist in that, is there big bad people kind of behind it? I think it's a little bit just the nature of humanity, John. Like we tend to complicate things. That's just the way we are. Like you look at, from the first moment that you had a car that existed on the street, the first Henry Ford driving down, he invented the car, I don't know, whatever, the first cars on the
Model T.
Model T, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So you get the first car on the street and they've never seen this before. And so it's kind of like, okay, what's the car for? Well, the car is to get you from point A to point C. Duh. Okay. So just go drive. But then you have one accident and then they say, okay, well, we probably need to put stop signs up here. And then you have another accident. And it's like, okay, now we need to create lanes. And then we got like driving around. And yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, like if you compile all the driving rules, you've got this like honcho, list of rules that it's so regulated, and healthcare is no different. And I just think it's part of humanity that in order to always mitigate the worst thing that could happen, we create a rule and then another rule and then another rule. And then at the end of the day, you're just so regulated. Well, then what happens? Then all the people that have money are the ones that can kind of play within those regulations. And so you look at pharmaceuticals, they'll dump in, millions and millions of dollars into whatever they do. And in that case, yeah, there is a barrier to entry because they're the only ones that can comply with every single rule that there is. And so now you're forced to use pharma. So I think it's not, it wasn't necessarily intentional. I think it's just the nature of humanity. And I think there's also another piece to healthcare where, like, as humans, we're kind of pain averse, which sounds obvious, like, why wouldn't you be pain averse? But we've also become hypersensitive to pain, and pain is like, it's a natural part of life. I remember as a kid, laying in bed at night with my legs killing me, and my mom would just tell me they're growth pains. And like, that always kind of stuck with me. Like sometimes pain is just a part of growth. Like you look at how plants grow, seeds break down, they die. And so because of our aversion to pain, we've sought all of the antidotes to pain. Feeling pain, pop a pill. Feeling pain, pop a pill. Feeling pain, here's an injection. And so what happened is now we've started to treat the pain, but not necessarily the cause. And I think that's the other huge problem with healthcare, is that we treat the symptoms, not necessarily the cause.
Oh, that's a whole other week-long podcast for sure. 90% of the problems you can solve by just going on just fasting for like a week.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But of course, nobody makes money if you do that, right? So,
I just told my fat friend, and he I don't care if he hears this because I call him Chubby all the time. I say, hey, go fast. I said, you're gonna fast for a week. There's plenty of clinics. Just jump on, go fast for 7 days or 5 days. He's like, and screw up my body and ruin my health. Are you crazy? Okay, all right. Go do a little research.
All right. Yeah.
I can't argue with you, but my point is that so maybe it's not intentional, but it's definitely layered up over the years and just become such a disaster. But you know what I always say? It's funny you mentioned Model T. I was going to say this. I was waiting for you to finish that part of your statement so I could tell you this, but you mentioned Henry Ford, and I always say, we should just have Elon Musk just add one more company, start another healthcare company, and make it as easy as Tesla and SpaceX, and just revolutionize the healthcare industry. And I swear, I bet you in a decade, he'll put all the ways out of business.
So I don't want to depress you, and you're going to get the Facebook or the fact checkers on me when I say this. But so as I understand it, Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase, Warren Buffett, everybody knows him, and Jeff Bezos. 3 or 4 years ago, they combined an initiative to try to solve healthcare. And
I heard about that, but
I heard
an article. I read an article. That was it.
They just shut it down. They shut down because they gave up. It's too complex.
Look at that. The three biggest, most brilliant minds that we are alive right now can't figure it out.
So I was like, man,
they gave up.
That's what I heard. They shut the thing down. They're like, it's not worth it. We're not,
They probably say, hey, here's $1 trillion. Please just leave us alone. Go away.
I think it's doable. I mean, you know, my whole goal in this podcast is to get myself invited to another one with you. So we're just going to keep introducing topics for the future. But I'm kidding. I think it's doable. It's like disruption in any industry, though.
Yeah.
You know, it takes you have complexity in industry, and then it takes someone who's going to say, hey, let's look at the industry from a different standpoint. And then you create that kind of that critical mass and that volume that snowballs towards it. And then you get the impetus behind it. And that's what causes change. You know, it just takes time, takes the right person. But
I mean, the simplest thing, David, the simplest thing, man. You go to this morning, I went to, I got a blood work done, and they said I had something with my thyroid antibodies were high. Okay, I'm 30.
Okay,
but 38. What the hell does that mean? Nothing. So I said, you know what? Let me just go to endocrinologist just to make sure. Right? I got 3 kids. You know, I want to make sure I'm good. I got to stay healthy. I get there today. He gives me a stack of documents. They said that they think they take my insurance. I went there. I filled out 7 pages. Right? Which I wish there was some. I know that there's a law that protects the processing of information. I understand that, but I would sign a waiver if somebody would just transfer my information to these guys, so I don't have to fill out 7 pages of paper.
Yep. Oh yeah. I love that. This is the stupidest thing. Every time you go, the check boxes.
Every specialist you go to, you got to refill it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it takes them 15 minutes to see if my insurance, like they cannot find my insurance. I'm like, well. And then finally, after 15 minutes, after I had my visit, they came back out. They said, you know what, we're just going to get back to you because we still can't find it, but we know we take it. Right. It's so complicated. I'm like, what is this? And I feel bad because everybody looks stupid, but it's not them. It's the antiquated system.
It's the system. And I'm cautious to say this because I have a lot of respect for healthcare people. And I can only say this as sort of being in the industry, but you look at how many people got laid off, you know, like within hospitals, and everything keeps working. So it makes me wonder, like, okay, wait a second. So you had all of these people laid off, but everything still seems to keep working fine. Like, is anybody else seeing that? Like, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, you know, you maybe bleep that part out of this, podcast.
No, it's going on, man. Somebody needs to say it.
And I'll say it, I'll say it, John. I'll say it.
What else do you guys do over there, David? I see you guys do occupational health, general liability, life care planning. So all of this revolves around, all the services that you have is all around workers' comp.
It's all around workers' comp, and that's mainly what we do. We've gotten active in some of the COVID stuff. Actually, we've put our nurses at the disposition of different employers helping out with COVID. So we established like a nurse hotline, so anybody who's got questions about COVID could call in. And that was a nice thing, just to put our people at the service of other people and say, hey, we know you got questions. So we've helped out companies, gotten involved with their HR, take over COVID questions and concerns, do some of the screening for them. But really, the essence of what we do is kind of all around that work comp piece. But, again, going back to kind of like what we're passionate about, I think like what we do is important because that's how you make a business run and it's profitable, but who we are is much more important, and trying to really be that lighthouse of a company who cares in our industry, but for all industries. And I think, John, you look at society, we're in a day and age where that kind of stuff is really, really important. Like, who wants to work for a company that they don't like? Like, nobody. And you realize nowadays, like, you don't have to stick around a company that doesn't care about you. And so for us, really what we try to pride ourselves on, and actually one of the things that differentiates us within our industry, is how we treat our people and how much we cultivate and curate company culture.
So you guys are based out of what? You're in Buffalo Grove, right? Or Lombard, Illinois?
We're in Lombard. Yeah, Lombard.
And I'm just going to shoot up a couple questions. Are you nationwide?
We are getting there. We're in the midst of nationwide expansion, actually.
Currently, you're Midwest?
So we're currently 8 states in the contiguous Midwest, plus 4 or 5 states out on the East Coast. And we're in process of going national and creating a network in order to service our customers nationally.
Okay, so if you did go nationally, let's say, or even East Coast, how would so everything's run out of the Lombard office? You have a team of people over there, and then you subcontract nurses out to follow your systems and procedures? Is that how you would run that?
Yeah, basically subcontract or hire. We hire them directly to work full time for us, or if we don't have the volume to keep them busy, then we'll subcontract. We actually do a lot of networking with other family-owned businesses. We kind of wear with pride, and I know, to be a second generation company is not like really a big deal when you look at the great scope. Well, it is. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate that. It actually is. It's hard for the owner to pass it on to a second, and a lot of them don't make it. I mean, you look at the statistics of how many companies fail within the first couple of years, and then I don't know what the statistics are for who successfully passes it on to a second generation, but in our industry too, it's extremely rare. And so, we're kind of excited about that fact because it gives us a mark of stability for the industry. There's a lot of consolidation going on in our industry, a lot of companies being bought up by PE companies. And so for us to say, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we're going to continue along this trajectory, it's pretty cool. It's a great blessing. And again, it's just a great value add, a good value prop to go to the market with.
Absolutely. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, David. I wanted to talk about, so how old are you?
35.
And how, you and your brother, are you in charge of has it been fully passed on to you guys right now? Or are your parents still involved at all?
No, we bought my parents out a couple of years back. So it was a full transition. Dad still comes around. He likes to weigh in and, give us advice and perspective.
It's his baby.
It's his baby. Oh yeah. It's his baby. My parents had 8 kids. My dad actually made the entrepreneurial plunge when he had 91. So he had 7 kids at the time.
Wow.
When he jumped.
Gutsy. That's very gutsy.
Yeah, very, very gutsy. Yeah, he's a person of a lot of faith, and just figured he could find a way through it, and he did. He kept it going for as long as he did, and we took it over. So yeah, it is their baby, sort of their ninth baby.
Was it successful right away, or was there some bumps in the road? Was it hard?
You kidding?
No. I want to hear. Of course. I would love to hear. No, I mean, a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, from took the plunge. Sometimes you hit a gold mine and like you tapped into something that wasn't being touched and it's off with the races. Sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail for every dollar, and then it finally blossoms. So I don't know what your story is. That's why I asked that.
Honestly, John, it's a little bit all of the above. It's I would say the business grew pretty quickly in the beginning. After you kind of get over that initial hump of getting started, it actually grew fairly quickly. I think that or maybe you don't, but companies sometimes to get to that first million is like it's tough. You really grind it out. You got to get to that first million, but then sometimes getting to that, from that first million to the 10 million, it's like a whole nother battle because you're starting to scale, but you're not really scaling. And that's, that's where we're at, right below that 10 million mark. And it's tough. It's the industry has evolved a lot. And, the people that started businesses like my dad, they were essentially operators. It's like a guy that's a great, pizza maker going and starting a pizza joint. Right. That's one thing to know how to make pizzas. It's another thing to know how to run a pizza business. And my dad did a great job as an operator. I think it gets really difficult when you have to start to learn, okay, so now how do I create the sales and marketing branch? And, how do I do all of this? And we struggled. There were some really tough times, where the company was close, fighting to make payroll and, got more gray hairs than a normal, 35-year-old because you got the sleepless nights and, COVID,
Wow, I know.
Not to mention that, right? You're just like, hey, how are we going to stay in business? So yeah, a lot of tough moments, but faith and grit. And I think humility too. It's humility to say, hey, you don't always get it right. And you just got to keep trying and you try the next thing. And I was listening to one of your other podcasts. The guy was talking about failing forward. And I like that concept. You just kind of fail forward and you try something. If it doesn't work, it's just like you try the next thing.
Yeah, Anthony Denha, that's who said it.
Anthony, yeah, it was a good one. I enjoyed that one. It was fun.
Oh yeah, I'll let him know you like that. Yeah, he's a big time developer out of Michigan, and actually his brother and his brother's wife, soon to be wife, is a nurse out of Michigan. And I was just telling her, I was like, why? She was telling me, we were talking, all of us, one time about how the biggest business in the nursing and medical is taking care of the elderly now. Because, home care or servicing the needs of the aging population. Have you ever considered going down that field? Because you already have all the nurses.
Yeah, we actually have, and you'll understand this. Running a business, you're constantly trying to, you're watching your foot on every step you take, but you're also trying to look, 5 feet ahead to make sure you're not about to walk over a cliff. And so diversifying is something we think a lot about. And the elder care piece, care management is a common thing. So people that, they have elderly parents and need to coordinate a lot of different services for them. That really is essentially what a case manager does. So we have thought about it. It's just looking for what the best next step is and how do you diversify and, what's the path forward. And I think any smart business person, if they're going to diversify, it's about looking at what are the assets you have, what are your expertises, and then how do you capitalize on those. And so not going into something that kind of seems similar to what you do. Maybe it's a stupid example, but it's like making pizzas and making ice cream. Like, yeah, it's making food, but it's totally different, right? And so do you go from one? Well, if you could use the pizza place to sell the ice cream, then it makes sense, but it's not necessarily always just a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, 100%, David. I mean, think about this, man. This is what they say, right? The riches are in the niches, number one. Okay.
I like that. I had not heard that, so that's good.
All right, yeah, good. You steal it. I don't know where I heard it from, but I took it and I
quote you.
Riches are in the niches. But let me tell you, I'm a man of many passions, all right? So like, marketing companies, restaurant companies, real estate, I love it all. And, I'm the kind of guy who's got to have, and one of my buddies, Jeremy, told me, you got to have a wall, like a, one of those cork boards. And you put it anytime you see a shiny red ball that you really like to think about, just think about it and then post it on there and then put it away for a little while. Because otherwise I'll just start another business. But the riches are in the niches. So you got to focus on what you do best.
Yeah.
And just become an expert at that. And once you start to diversify too much, then you become a master of none and jack of all trades and master of none.
And I think you hit on, one of the challenges that we ran into is the bane of the entrepreneur is to not focus. Entrepreneurs are visionaries, and it's like, they want to chase every idea. And it's like, no, hang on, sit down, shut up and focus on what you're good at. And like, I like to think that, my brother and I, we're like yin and yang. I mean, we're as, different as they get personality wise. And that's great. It's a blessing for the company to kind of have both, both pieces, but, to find that ability to focus and keep driving forward on what you're good at, it's tough. It takes a lot of discipline. And, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. They get an idea and then they're already on to the next one before they're perfected, and I struggle with that too, honestly. There's a lot of times like, I'll bring an idea to my team and they're like, hold on, like we still haven't figured out the last idea you gave us. So I'm like, all right, well, hurry up. Let's go. Come on, move. Let's go.
Let's next. All right, I got an idea. Let's get it. Let's rent the balloon. No, I'm just joking. So let me ask you about your relationship with your brother with regards to running an operation, a very large business. Not only are you working with your brother, which is hard enough because it's two males, there's always that power struggle, but I'm sure you guys have respect for each other. And so but you got to have that delicate balance of stay in your lane, I'll stay in my lane, right? Which every family does. But not only that, but you also have it being you took it over from your parents, second generation. So now you have it's like it's not weird. It's just a family dynamic. A lot of families get split up over this type of stuff. How do you balance it?
Yeah, man.
What advice do you have? That's a hard question, I know, but I'm throwing you on the spot.
No,
it's important for people to know.
I sincerely think that someday someone could write a book about my brother and I's partnership. I really do. I say that like, man, we've had some really rough moments. We took over the business when it was in a really tough spot. And so we were immediately kind of plunged into this. You had a lot of family dynamics going on, and you can imagine you've got 8 kids and 2 of them take over the business. I mean, this is that point in the story where you just kind of put like the ... and let everybody figure out like, how all of that went down. But what's cool about my brother and I's partnership is that it actually started way before we took over the business. And, we just built, which is another topic I'm really passionate about, authenticity and vulnerability. We built an authentic friendship before, we were ever working together. I had come back to the family business after coming home from Europe, worked there for a bit on the finance side, then went to grad school. And so I was gone for 7 years between, working at the business and then coming back and eventually taking it over. But during that time, like my brother and I just got to know each other, and we were very, very different. I mean, like I could dive into all the differences, but just personality wise, interest wise, passion wise, everything. But we had a mutual respect for each other, and that ability to say, like, even though I disagree with you, like, I respect your opinion because it's yours. And like, it's just because I don't think it's right, it doesn't mean it's wrong. And so let's seek for the truth together. And so when we took over the business together, it was building on that foundation of mutual respect and understanding we're different. We're not always going to agree. We're not always going to like each other, but we're going to work at it. The number one piece of advice: every Monday without fail, we go to lunch together. And it sounds so stupid and it sounds so simple, but I've given this piece of advice to numerous, family companies, people that have partners. It just forces you to be together for an hour and a half or an hour, and like if you got a tough topic in between you, it's kind of hard for it not to come up. Or if there's something that's bothering you, you just kind of, just me, after half an hour, I'm kind of like, now what? Like, what, you just like Google topics to talk about with your business partner, right? Because you just run out of stuff, but it gives you a chance to air that kind of stuff out. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that partnerships, it's really easy for resentment to grow. It's very easy for like conflict and then separation, but forcing yourselves just to be together, work through that stuff. I give him a lot of props too. I mean, I'm not the easiest person to work with, because I'm hard charging and I'm passionate about what I believe. And I believe that we need to take the company to the next level. And so I'm pushing everybody out of their comfort levels. And I get that. Like he had been at the business for about 20 years before we took it over. And so there was sort of an established way of doing things. And I come in as the entrepreneurial younger brother. He's the oldest, I'm the sixth child. And so I come in as the younger, and there's this push and pull of, hey, like we got to grow. And how do you change, but still respect what was done? I don't know if that's a good, clear answer, but I would just say that we're very intentional about working at the relationship, and it's tough, super tough, but it's like a marriage, marriages that work, they're the ones that you're intentional about, and you kind of put those things in place that are going to force you to continue to grow together. And you create those safe spaces where you can air out your differences and keep working through stuff.
I think that was a very, very good answer, because that was legit. That was real. I could tell, it was it's an uncomfortable topic sometimes. I mean, it is, I know.
There's days we hate each other, there's days like,
anybody who tells you that, if your answer was, my brother and I really get along, and we've always get along, and we have a mission statement that we follow, and we would say, oh, okay, David, you're a fantastic liar, my friend. But the real answer is, it's never easy, especially with the stresses of finance and growth and customer relations and employees and just the normal grind of day to day, plus your personal lives, your families. It's unreal. I know. My brother and I, we're partners in everything we do. And we've working in the same, we've learned to work separately, but together, right? Separate locations.
Yep.
Because, we have to have both alpha males. You need to have separate spots to mark your territory,
space,
right?
Absolutely.
That's how we say it. It's a little abrupt way of saying it, but I let him
pee on his wall.
I say, you do you. No, that's what we don't do. His office, he wants to have his water this way. I want to have cups of, so like the simple things could be annoying after a while, like a marriage. So when you're first engaged or you're just dating, you're like, oh, you got a little broccoli in your hair, honey.
I love that. I love it. So cute.
All the way you sneeze. And then, 5 years later, you're like, can you just close your mouth? Can you go sneeze over there? So you don't want to have that happen in your personal life, in your family life. So you have to be intentional about respect, give each other space, right? And then communicate. Like, even though you're in the grind every day, take the time to sit down and force yourself to have a conversation. You have to. It's if otherwise you can go weeks without seeing each other or not talking.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely right. And I think the tough thing is that self-awareness is probably one of the biggest pieces, I think, to making it work, because like when you're kind of just starting off, it's like, yeah, okay, tell me what my defects are. Like, I don't mind you calling me out. It's kind of like the whole broccoli thing. Like, at the beginning you love each other. And so it's like, oh yeah, go ahead and tell me I got broccoli in my hair. But after 5 years, it's like, who the hell are you to tell me that I got broccoli in my hair? Like, shut up.
Go wash your face.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like your face either. Right. And so I think the ability and the humility and the human maturity to then be self-aware and to constantly know how you come across, and so you can kind of call yourself out, that's huge. And I give him a lot of props. I think we both work at that a lot, but I give him props for being a good person to work with. I think he's, in a lot of ways, he's kind of the best partner to have in running a business. We're very different in how we see growth and stuff like that. But as far as like the loyalty and the ability to try to be self-aware and to recognize our own weaknesses, is paramount, and that's a hard one, because like, I don't know that you can teach that. Like, you can go through, we actually both went through, Loyola has a course called Next Generation Leadership Institute, NGLI. And we both actually went through that. He went through it first, and then I went through it second. It's an 18-month course. And there's a lot of like getting to know yourself.
I'm sorry, by choice or through your parents requested that?
Yeah. So his parents kind of requested that he go through it, and then he really wanted me to go through it. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this. And then I eventually said, I'll do it because I want us to have a common vocabulary. And that actually, I think, proved to be very valuable. Like, there were terms that we both went through this course, and so we could use the same vocabulary and know what the other person was referring to. So they kind of forced him. He may not say that, but they kind of forced him, and then he kind of forced me.
But you're grateful that it happened.
Yeah, I'm grateful that it happened. I met some great people. In fact, we still stay in touch. And, I was actually just got off the phone with one of my buddies that I went through the course with, because I was telling him about some things I'm struggling with. And he's like, hey, I'll give you a call right away to check in on you. And that kind of solidarity it's powerful. But I think that course also helped us both on the self-awareness piece, say, hey, who am I? What are my tendencies? How do I react in stressful situations? And that allows you then to just be honest with the other person. And I think that's huge, because if he can recognize that he's an idiot, it saves me from having to tell him that, and if I can recognize that I love risk and I love high stressful situations, and when it's not stressful, I'm probably going to make it stressful because I do better in stressful situations. That saves him from having to say, you're just creating stress when there doesn't need to be stress. And that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I could talk to you all day. I like your personality. I like your energy. I can feel it through the Zoom call. Believe it or not, I want to keep in touch with you. I'll send you an email every couple of hours to check in on you. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And let's stay in touch. And you're in Lombard. But if you ever come out to, let's see, where are you? If you ever go to Belmont and Pulaski in the city,
sure.
I have a pizza place over there. Come out, give me a call. We'll break some bread together.
I would love that. It's the best way to bond. But I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm a fan of what you're doing, and look forward to staying in touch too and doing great things.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, David.
All right, John.
Have a good day. God bless.
All right. You take care. God bless you too.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for listening to the Always Direct podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.